Welcome to Denny's Mastery Role Play. Today's the end of January, January 31st already, and the month is gone. I trust your 2025 has started off on a good path. And you know what we want to do here is we always work on our skills. I intend to teach you some of the physics of real estate. And I kind of believe I may say some things you'll never hear anywhere else. I kind of have a line on some ideas, and maybe it's just the way I swing the golf club, so to speak, however it works. And I know something works some of the time, but how would you like to have something that works all of the time? And if we base our conversations and our concepts on physics, it'll work all the time. The only variable in what we do in real estate, it has nothing to do with the property, it has everything to do with the property owner. So here's lesson number one I'd like to share with you before I go into my thought of the day. Write this down if you're taking notes, or go ahead and get this tattooed on your forehead. We do not list property, we list property owners. So before I go forward, that might be like trigonometry for some of you guys. Somebody break it down. What do I mean by that?
Well, doesn't matter buyer or seller. When you start, speaking to them, you start finding out their motivation. Basically, if they're realistic with their expectations and everything. So if they're not realistic, doesn't matter what price they want to sell, what they want. Right.
So let me ask you this question, you guys. How many people have had a bad listing? Anybody have a bad listing?
Aye.
Well, let me say you did not have a bad listing. You had a bad property owner. You can sell a double wide in Afghanistan. All right, if it's priced properly. You can sell a house that should be a hoarder's house if you have a realistic owner. However, you can take the Taj Mahal, you can take a house right out of Better Homes and Gardens. It would be a beautiful home. However, if the owner is not in reality, nothing works. So that's a very strong concept, guys. There was a time in my real estate career when our market was kind of changing, and it actually was a bubble, probably around 2006 or 7, Southwest Florida. You realize I did my listing appointments. I didn't even go to the home. I had sellers come to the office, and sometimes they would question me about it. Why did I do it that way? Because the property wasn't important. The property owner was. Now, eventually we have to understand what we're listing. However, understanding their degree of motivation is super important. So thanks for being on today. And again, I do have, if you haven't already, you would like some of my slides, some of the things I keep showing all the time, just go to my YouTube channel, Denny's Mastery, Denny's, what's it called? Denny Grimes, the Mastery of Real Estate. Subscribe and just let me know. Send me an email at coachdennygrimes@gmail.com. Maybe Maria, you'll put that in the chat, or Don, and I'll send you my slides. I do have a thought of the day though. So really quick, before we get into our conversations, be thinking about what conversations you want. If you would like to stump me, I don't know if Matt's on here too. If you'd like to stump me or Matt, think of something like, you know what, you're waiting for, to have a conversation with Elvis or some sort of thing like that. Whatever objection you have, get ready to throw it our way. But I want to share my thought of the day with you.
Denny, may I share something quickly, if you don't mind? Sometimes in life we go through experiences and that thing comes in a different form. So this past Wednesday, I went to a listing appointment, and before over the phone, the guy told me he's going to interview 4 or 5 agents though. It was expired by one of our agents in the office. And I did exactly what you told me. I'm not going to go there with my whole marketing. I'm just going to go there with nothing, just to have conversation with him. And I spoke with him, and he was like, "What is your whole material?" I'm like, "No, man, I just came to have a conversation with you to find out about your expectations and see if we can actually work together or something." And he just called me out of the 5 that he would like me to represent it because he felt I was more sincere. Just like, the way you were mentioning. I'm not sure, if that was a coincidence, but.
Well, okay. Let's hang on to that thought. In just a second, we'll talk about it. I have a quick blink on it, and it may have nothing to do with what you brought or didn't bring. It probably had a lot to do with how you just handled the conversation. The old bold class, you'll hear this, Matt will do this all the time in his conversations. It's like, maybe we're not going to work together. Maybe I can't help you. And when you go with that, in fact, the old bold conversation, bold is a class in Keller Williams that we used to teach, Diana Kokosis listing presentation. There are three things that can happen. Potentially three things can happen. Number one, you may elect to hire me, which is great. You may elect not to hire me, which may not be great. Or I may choose not to work with you. Is that fair? And so you kind of come off, and I said this earlier today, neutral. Another word for neutral is agnostic. You don't go in there wanting the listing. You want to go in to find out how you can help them. Having a listing with an owner that has no motivation doesn't really help you a whole lot. So we'll come back to that in a second. I just want to share something with you really fast. You guys are here learning, which is great. The most important thing you guys can do after hearing this or watching this is to practice, because agents either don't know what to do or they know what to do and they don't practice it. Which one are you? I think everybody on this call, I recognize, and you, whatever level of business you're doing, if you want to get better, it comes to practice. And I have one of my favorite slides. I grew up in a trailer park right next to a bowling alley. Wasn't I a lucky guy? That's back, Matt, when we didn't have a garbage can out to the road and people would pick up with a truck. We took it down to the incinerator and burned it. Anybody remember days like that? So I got to play pool a lot. Growing up, I got to play pool. And I remember when I first started, I was no good. So I love pictures. And so how can you see the screen behind me? If you put me on speaker view or highlight, I want you to see that picture. What do you see in that picture? Speak up. Let's go.
A lady playing pool and the gentleman sitting on top of the pool table with the drink.
Yeah, so what's going on?
I think he's hiding that one red ball behind him.
So, I mean, it's kind of funny to look at. I mean, maybe that's the date. Maybe that's the guy. Hey, can I come over and buy you a drink? Who knows what's going on there? However, would you suggest or think that this person is playing pool recreationally or professionally?
Recreationally.
Right. I mean, anybody play pool? Her form is terrible. And, and a professional wouldn't play with somebody sitting on the table with a beer on the table. Now, my point is, how many real estate agents do you know that go through real estate recreationally? So this girl, she may be great at something, but pool isn't her game. And how much money do you think she makes playing pool? Not a lot. She may get a lot of dates, but I'm sure she's not making a lot of money. Now, let me compare and contrast that to this one. Watch this picture, guys. Y'all see it?
Now we're talking business.
A difference in her form. Do you see a difference in her level of focus? Do you notice that people are around watching her? She's so good, people want to watch her. She's playing for money. That lady is called the Black Widow, a professional pool player that makes money playing pool. Just by looking at the two pictures, you can tell the recreational from the professional, yes? My question is, if someone were watching you, would they see this or that? And my last point before we go on, and I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm preaching to a lot of people maybe watching by video. How do you get to that point? How do you go from recreational to professional in real estate, guys? Come on, tell me.
Practice, practice, practice.
Okay, practice, coaching, hours and hours of playing pool. So my appeal to you is this. You guys are here, so I'm a little bit preaching to the choir, but you're watching people play pool. Practice is when you actually go and practice the role play. Matt, you want to add anything to that?
I've mentioned Chris Voss before. Chris Voss is was one of the lead FBI investigators. He wrote a book called Never Split the Difference, which a lot of people probably know about.
Yes.
But one of the things that Chris noted in one of his podcasts that I was watching was, this is guys that negotiate for people's lives. He's pretty good at what he does. He noted that he noticed that he was getting rusty because he wasn't practicing. He thought that just sitting in the suicide call center, taking those calls, because he would do that in his off time. He would sit in the suicide call center, he would take these calls. And he noticed that just by sitting in that call center, he perceived that as practice, taking those calls, going through the reps, but it wasn't. Like, so when I make my lead generation phone calls every morning, that's not practice. That is my craft. I have to practice. So what he noticed, and I'm explaining terribly to you, is that even experts have to practice until they can't get things wrong. So you have to practice these things not until you get it right. It's until you can't get it wrong, and then you keep practicing. Just like Kobe shooting and playing, shooting thousands of balls, free throws, and practicing for 8 hours a day on off days. The guy played professional basketball at the highest level, one of the best there ever was. He still had to practice every single day. So just don't become complacent. You have to do this if you're a professional. Just because you sell $100 million in real estate a year doesn't mean you're good enough to call yourself an expert. You still have to practice.
There you go. So I want to thank you guys. I've been doing this master call since COVID, so maybe 3 or 4 years. And so don't think you have to be in real estate 20, 30, 40 years to get to my point. I have actually mastered the craft of conversations in the last 4 years by working on this, teaching it, hearing you guys, getting ideas, reading books about what to say, and then practicing. So enough from the pulpit. Let's get into some conversation. So let's go back to Tanner's comment. Get your hands up so we can have some other comments. I remember Matt, he made a comment early on. I think you were on, you heard it. He went into a listing appointment. The guy was interviewing and just came in for a conversation, didn't bring any material. Obviously, he wasn't selling, which is probably a point. And he got the listing. Could be a one-off. How would you evaluate that, Matt?
Who did that?
Tanner.
Oh, Tanner. Well, I think it's pretty powerful because some of my best clients come from my going into appointments and having zero expectations. So, buyer and seller and investor alike. So I think that being brutally honest with everybody on this call that can hear my voice, you should be going into every appointment just the way Tanner did. Be practiced, but also go into it with zero expectations. Because when you approach things with no ego, coming from a place of how can I serve you, being more interested than interesting, that's when you can truly be of service and know whether you can help them or not.
I think that's exactly it too, you guys. So if you go in there and so don't think it was because he didn't bring anything in. I expect you to be prepared. But what if you just don't open the stuff and you sit and have a conversation about be interested in them, what their situation is? Don't get out your listing presentation, pop it open and go through the 40 pages. So relax a little bit, have some fun. And that's what we're going to do here today. So Maria, do we have any hands up?
Denny, if I just can add one thing, when I prospect, 6 7 days a week. So I picked like specific area for 2 days. And, when I prospect, I kind of like analyze, like what's pending, what I sold. So you already have like a pretty good idea. And when a seller like this is just calling you right away, I think you should still have some understanding of the market, that you just don't go blindly just to have conversation, because, you need to have some confidence with it. And that's what it was. I just had good idea about the market, but I just didn't prep with all these CMAs and everything. and had the conversation, and he just ended up picking me, and I did not debate him on the price. He mentioned that the other people told him he cannot sell, he has to fix this and that, and we'll see. I still have to go back to evaluate him one more time, but we'll see.
Well, come on, I've never seen you guys shy. Who's afraid? If you don't want to do the role play, then you be the customer and throw me one. Then we'll maybe let Matt play. See if you can stump us. Give us something hard. Give us something you would like to get better at. All right, Carlos, you're up. What would you like to talk about?
Can we go? The other day we practiced when you're asking for price reduction, they're also asking you for your commission reduction as well.
Okay. So, all right, so you are the seller, right? Or you want
Yes.
to be the agent?
Can I be the seller?
Yes, you may. And this is the one, I think we both did it, but I think Matt did a really good job on this. So you're at the table, you got a repositioning, and now you say, hey, look, well, I'm cutting my price. I want you to cut your commission. So Matt, 2 minutes.
Hey, Carlos, so what exactly are you asking me?
Well, Matt, you want me to lower my price. I'm losing money. It's fair that you also cut your commission so I can save some money.
Okay, gotcha. If I can focus on something really quickly, when you say you're losing money, what do you mean?
Well, I have to sell the house for a lower price, and also I have to pay you the full commission
Right,
and the fees.
right. But can you lose something you never had?
No,
Okay, so what are we really losing here? The market's responding, right?
right.
Right, because it doesn't ultimately, Carlos, it doesn't matter if I tell you that we can get $10 million for this house, and you tell me you want $10 million for it. If we can't get a buyer to write that check, it's not worth it, right?
Right. And I just thought, Matt, that since we're lowering my price, it would be fair to also kind of help me out here with lowering your commission, because I also have to pay fees and all the land transfer fee and everything in between.
Sure, absolutely. We can talk about that now. I just wanted, we're on the same page though when it comes to losing. We're not losing anything, right? We agree to that?
Yes, we agree to that.
Okay, perfect. So now as far as me discounting my worth to you, how will that benefit us?
It will help me save a little.
Okay, so you'll save a little bit more money. What do we get if the home doesn't sell?
Well, then we're not getting any fees, anything.
Right. I get nothing, you get nothing. Is that an option for you?
No, that's not an option, Matt.
Okay. Right. So when we met 3 weeks ago and I discussed what I charge for my services and my brokerage charges for my services, you agreed, correct?
Yes,
And you hired me because I'm an expert in my field and a professional, correct?
that's right.
Am I no longer an expert or a professional?
Oh, no, you're still representing me. You're still the professional that we take advice from, Matt.
Right. And you hired me to advise you, correct?
Right.
And I'm advising you, correct?
That's right.
Has my advisement faltered? Has it changed? The quality of my service, has it changed?
No, it has not.
Okay, great. So do we think that I should discount my value to you moving forward?
That's 3 minutes.
You put it that way, no. Love that.
But the home not selling won't help either, right?
So just as another way, okay, of, instead of lobbing it in, maybe this is going to be a chip and run really fast, Carlos. So let me ask you, so you're going to lower the price, you're going to sell it for less, correct?
Right.
Well, Why don't we just leave it where it is, so we can keep the fee the same as we agreed to? Would you like that better?
Well, and how we're gonna get a buyer for it.
Well, we probably won't, but you know, we've agreed to a certain fee. And so maybe we'll just leave it where it is. Or let me ask you this. What if a buyer came in and paid more than your asking price? Would you be willing to pay me more?
That's a good point, Denny.
And oh, by the way, you have to pay closing costs and your taxes. So will you be able to talk to your tax assessor, say, I actually sold my house for less money than I thought. Would you please give me a break on my taxes? Would you give me a break on my title insurance? Would you give me a break on my moving expenses?
Great point, Denny.
And my last point is this. So going back to Matt's line of questioning about, you know, you hired me for my experience, my expertise. Do you think now, if the market's not where it is, we're gonna have to go find the market? Do you think my expertise is valuable versus maybe finding somebody who could charge less, but not give you the right advice as far as positioning and negotiating, and you'll actually net less money? When you're on the operating table, are you going to negotiate with a surgeon? Anyway, same type of thing. And you know what? That's the long version. You know what the short version is, Matt?
No.
No, we don't.
And you can
Like,
also
for example, one more thing. Like, for example, what if we have multiple offers now, and instead of my fee being 4 apples, it's going to be 7 apples? Is that fair enough? Go ahead, Matt.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
That's okay. It'll come to you. It comes with age.
Yeah, right.
Adam.
Yes. I don't have anything specific to go over, but I'm here to practice. So if anybody else have an objection, I like to practice.
No, you got to sit there until you have something. Maria.
Okay.
I'll call you. Just let me know. You'll be next.
Denny, I'm an expired. You're calling me, and I found a renter for the house now, so I don't want to sell.
Okay, well, that'll go to Matt. I can go toe to toe with Matt and hold my own with him at a table, but he's better on the phone than me. Go.
We want to start from the beginning, Maria?
Sure.
Okay, Rick.
Hi.
This wouldn't be Maria, would it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, this is Matthew with Keller Williams. We've never spoken before. Can I quickly ask you a question before you hang up on me?
Yes.
I noticed your property on Main Street wasn't on the market anymore. Have you given up on selling that?
Yes.
For now or forever?
I found a renter.
Oh, okay, gotcha. What had you selling in the first place?
Why does it matter?
Well, typically when people put properties on the market, it's important to them to sell. It sounds like it's not important to you anymore.
It's not important to me anymore. I found a renter.
Okay, wonderful. How long are you going to lease it for?
We will be talking to him about it shortly, but I have a renter, so I'm not interested in selling the place anymore.
Okay, gotcha. So I understand. If a buyer came along right now before you signed the lease and wrote you a check for whatever you wanted and wanted to close around your schedule, you wouldn't be interested in selling at all? You'd rather rent it?
Yes.
Okay, phenomenal. Were you committed to an agent you know and trust if you were ever going to sell?
I think I'm just gonna continue renting.
Okay, keep it until it turns to dust, right? If it makes dollars, it makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, phenomenal. That's it. I'm done. I'm out.
So one thing I would like to point out, you notice how he handled it. He's got a good bull ride. The bull ride is that it wouldn't be Maria, would it? And introduces himself and, hey, can I have 30 seconds before you hang up? Creates curiosity. And then really not a lot of words. He follows the bases. He didn't go like 3 deep into clarification, ask a lot of questions. He went, what had you selling in the first place? And then sometimes you guys, when you want to make a point, if your argument holds up in the extremes, it holds up. For example, and he went down the road, hey, look, if somebody showed up and gave you what you wanted, would you take it? You can even say, okay, well, if somebody came up and gave you $100,000 more than you asked for the home, would you sell it instead of rent it? And if they say yes, what does that mean?
Means they're selling on some degree is still important to them.
They can be bought.
Mhm.
So don't be afraid, and Matt does it all the time, is going to an extreme. Like, for example, many times I'm talking to people on the phone, maybe calling my past clients, hey, do you know anyone? I've got a new listing. You know anyone that might be interested? Or better yet, this is a great sphere call. I'll call and say, look, you know, I'm in real estate right now. I've got great goals for 2025. Do you know anyone who's interested in maybe buying or selling? Their answer is no. Well, every now and then we run into sellers that are super motivated. So if I happen to find a home, you know, buy one, get one free. Do you know anyone that I should call? Now that is a side door question to what? Now I'm making a caricature. I'm exaggerating it. However, well, maybe I would. Now the door kind of swings open a little bit, right? They can be bought. Adam, you ready? You blacked out. That means you're not ready yet, right?
No, I'm not. I'm actually got to head on the road, but I'll be listening in.
I got a question.
Hey, hold on 1 second, Janet. Before Maria, did that help at all? Because that was your role play. So
I think I did. How do you break the streak when every question you ask, it's just no? Like, you know how I am very direct and I just say no and that's it? And I don't know how to break the no.
Right, and that's okay, Maria. We don't want to. So let's 1,000-foot view, real quick. I'm never afraid to ask the hard question because I'm not afraid of the answer. Number one. So I always ask the hard question. Number two, if they don't answer the questions or are not willing to, just like you, they're not real. They are not real. You notice how I poked a couple times at would you sell, would you sell, would you sell, along those lines. And you just kept saying, nope, rather rent it, rather rent it, rather rent it. Next, we're done. If you're asking quality questions and they're not engaging in civil discourse, fantastic. That's why my last question was, if you were going to do something, was there an agent you know and trust that you'd be committed to working with? And your answer was, I'm going to rent it. Fantastic. Have a great day. There's nothing you can do when it's an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. You're done. And that's okay. You want those. You want it to get over them. So you know you don't have to call them again. So if they don't answer the questions, guys, please accept this internally. They are not real right now.
So if you want to know how that feels, so Mary or Brad, you guys are next. Get ready and have your objection in your mind. If someone were to call you and they were really good on the phone like Matt and they were selling you alpaca, would you like to be an alpaca rancher? How many of you could they say anything at all to convince you to be an alpaca rancher?
And Denny's asking because years ago alpaca was going to be the next big thing. Like it was going to be the meat of choice. And a bunch of idiots went out and bought a bunch of alpaca because they were going to be alpaca farmers. So no, you couldn't. If you tried to sell me alpaca, I wouldn't buy it for all of King Midas's gold. I'm sorry, I'm not interested.
So guess which closes work on someone who has no motivation? None.
None of them.
None. Denny,
So cut
Denny,
your
it's like
losses.
Denny, it's like your wife says. They just don't need the gas right now, and they're not stopping by the gas station to say hello. If they don't
That's
need
right.
the gas, let them go. And Matthew was perfect to say, okay, well, when your fuel tank does go low, do you have a gas station that you like? No, I'm just going to drive it until the thing runs dry. Okay, good luck. Have a nice life. See ya.
The only difference, good, that's a great analogy. I'm going to take that because my wife came up with it. The only difference between raising alpaca and real estate is one thing. It's like you go to the food court in the mall. There's somebody always giving you free samples of bourbon chicken. Would you like a sample of bourbon chicken? No. Well, you don't know why that no happened. They're not hungry. They don't like germs. They don't like chicken. However, here's the difference about real estate. Just like food, everyone gets hungry sooner or later. Everyone has a need for shelter sooner or later. That's why follow-up is so important. Okay, Brad, Mary, which one of you are up?
It'd be Brad.
Brad, what are we
So-
doing?
I have a little background noise here, so if it's not coming through clear, just shut me down, which you're good at. What we're doing is a scenario I ran into yesterday. As I went to look at an investment property, the owner also is for sale by owner on another property. The investment property is promising, and then we looked at the for sale by owner property. His complaint was he had it listed before by another agent, didn't like their marketing. And as I was questioning him, I found out that he's moving to Chicago. And I asked him what happens if he doesn't be there by March. So I would like for you to help me separate the two. I'll be the seller.
Separate the two. I mean, the two properties.
Yeah, I want to keep the relationship good between the two. I'd like to go ahead and approach his for sale by owner, but I also, if the investment property doesn't go through, I want to keep, just separate the two. I want to go ahead and approach for the for sale by owner.
You understand that, Brad? I mean, Matt.
Not really. So you visited with somebody, and they're listed or not listed?
They were listed. They are not listed now because they didn't feel like the agent was marketing it very well, and they're local. They're a local agent.
Hang on, Matt. One point I want you guys to pick up. I'm kind of the teacher from a 1,000 foot. The guy says, I don't like my other agent because of his marketing. I want your noodle to be saying something. What should you be thinking right now?
That the
What about
marketing
his
or the
market?
price?
Yes, this guy's been smoking sweet and low or something, right? It's not the marketing. He may be a little unrealistic, right? I just want you to know that intuitively, it is not marketing. All right, so I got that. So I'll let Matt handle this. If you understand enough where you can probe a little bit, I'll give you 2.5 minutes, Matt.
Okay, are we on the phone, Brad, or are we at the table?
We're at the table. I'm the seller.
Okay. All right, and you want to go in on your own, right? That's the scenario. He wants to sell on his own because
yes. I'm so sorry. Yes. I want it right. Let me get in the seller position. I understand now. Yes, I want to sell it on my own. I feel like I can get more money. I wasn't happy with the marketing done by the other agent.
Okay, gotcha. What would you like them to do that they didn't?
Well, I would like them to reach out more to the East Coast and West Coast areas because I feel like my property it's on 20 acres. It's close to the lake here. And I would like for them to reach out to people that might be looking at moving off the coast.
Okay. How do you know he didn't do that?
I really don't have any proof, but it's just the feeling I got. I just didn't see it after conversations with the realtor. I just didn't feel like they were doing anything more than just local.
Okay, gotcha. What's got us moving?
Moving to Chicago. My wife's with the Air Force. We're going to Chicago, south side, not the south side, but city south of Chicago.
When does she need to be there?
She needs to be there by March.
Okay, what happens if she's not?
Well, actually, she's already there. I'm here just taking care of these houses and traveling back and forth. What happens if she's not by March? When I asked that question, I got a raised eyebrows and like a really concerned look on his face. So if I would have to respond, wow, that would not be good if I'm not there by March.
Okay, is keeping this home an option?
No, it is not.
Okay, how long would we give ourselves for the home to not sell before we would have to adjust something, anything?
Well, I'm here with you right now. I think I'm ready to adjust. I'm just not sure what to adjust.
Okay, great. So outside of that, what else do you need to know from me to know that I'm the right agent to help you get this property sold today?
I would like for you to maybe explain to me how the marketing works. And I know we can't do that right now, but just a better understanding of what your marketing is.
What I could explain my marketing strategy.
That's 2:30. Are you on the phone, you guys?
No, we're at the table.
Okay. So without going through the conversation, bullet point, you know, your chess, the next couple chess moves, Matt, how would you handle the next couple moves?
Yeah, the next couple chess moves is I would just explain. I could explain. I could, Brad. I could launch a rocket ship into outer space with a picture of your home on it. It would cost me about $1 billion with my cousin Elon. But ultimately, if we can't get a buyer to write a check for your home, how's that going to help us?
It's not. It's absolutely not.
Yep. So then from there, I'd say, right. So, what else do you need to know from me? Because you talk about marketing, right? So I don't even tackle the marketing question. I just explained some asinine idea of what I just did.
Yeah.
Say, right, so what else do you need to know from me?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Because we're going to market the bad boy, but what else do you need to know from me? And then we're going to go into a pricing conversation.
Okay.
So Matt, let me ask you, you guys have been quiet. What questions would come up in your mind if you were having that conversation? What other questions could you have asked in that? And again, you're not going to be able to handle customers in 2.5 minutes. We're going to lay out the format, but a couple of different things came to my mind, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Are you ready to position the home in such a way that we can get it sold and get you on to where you need to be by March?
Okay, good question. What else?
Well, one thing I'll jump in real quick. We know he needs to sell. We know keeping the home's not an option.
Well, yes. Here's the thing I want you to understand. When you've got a seller, the motivation, that's your game to lose.
Right. Yep. I'm walking out with the listing.
I want you to remember the 5 mindsets of a buyer or seller. And take a picture of this or whatever, but they are at least they've decided to buy or sell. And the thing is, they already hired an agent, didn't work, so they're maybe at number 4. Number 4 is, okay, well, I made the decision. Now I want to hire an agent. And then, of course, number 5 is hiring you. So he wants to do it on his own. So I would have maybe asked this. I'll say, you didn't like the marketing because they didn't market to the East and West Coast, correct? How are you going to do that?
Yep.
They won't know. And oh, by the way, I says, as time gets closer, and you said selling is not selling is not an option. You know, a lot of times I find that sellers, when they get pressure, they make bad decisions and they lower the price out of desperation. Do you want that to happen? And that's nothing more than going another form of pain. So I'm not a big fan. I know sellers like marketing. They want you to do something different. Do your best not to sell sell yourself on marketing. You can talk about what you do, but don't let that be the main cog in the synagogue, because they're going to hold you to that.
Everything you mentioned that you're going to do for marketing, they're going to ask you again later when the home hasn't sold.
Yeah, and they'll find somebody who has a bigger marketing budget.
Yep, and that's why I always go to the extreme of if your home's worth $1 million, it's worth $1 million. Brad, tell me if you agree. I could spend $1 million marketing your $1 million home, so I'm in the red. If we can't get a buyer to write that check, it's not going to, right?
Right.
So
right.
I go to the extreme every time, and then you don't have to spend a lot of time talking about marketing. You go back into, why are we selling? When do we need to sell? Remember, the 3 questions that matter, I've said it before. Why do you need to buy or sell? When do you need to buy or sell by? And what happens if you don't?
I wish you guys could have been with me yesterday. I thought about you guys when I had to go, and I don't go and meet with sellers much because my team does that. But this was a seller that was on the market in like 90 days. No, they had one repositioning. She sent me an email. Hey, look, all open house. Agents are doing open houses. I told you before, an open house is a placebo for you and or the seller. But and here's what I learned. She's getting pressure from all the neighbors. I mean, you actually lowered your house and your agent's not gonna do an open house? And kind of like Tanner, I walked over, I drove like 20 or 30 minutes away. I didn't bring stuff. I didn't bring market stuff because I didn't need it. The fact that we've had no showings and we're getting good activity online and no showings, I know what the issue is. And so my question is, when you go and have your conversations with your sellers, particularly if they're not positioned right, do you have the conviction in your bones? If it were a combination lock and they're giving you the right, left, right numbers and it's not working, and they keep wanting you to open the lock with the same numbers, can you see? Can you tell them, no, it won't work? Are you that convicted? Adam, you're ready yet? Probably not. You said you wouldn't be.
Hey, when I had my seller and we were having that pricing conversation and we were talking about positioning, and he asked me what to position it, and I said, that's the question I have for you. You're the one that needs to let me know. And then I got quiet. And within an hour, I got the price I needed, $190 or $290. I'm sorry.
You sat there in his living room for an hour without.
No, I wasn't in the living room. It was over the phone texting. He lives in Atlanta.
If you parked yourself on my couch for an hour, I'd probably agree to do whatever you want. All right, I'll price whatever you want and go home.
Right.
Get out of my living room.
All right, come on, you guys. Got to have an objection, something you want to work
I
on?
do. A great listing agent is free to a seller. Please, I don't want to get that in my head.
All right, so here, you've heard this before, and Matt and I are like parched, been talking so much. Anyone want to take that job on? This is the essence of greatness in listing. When you can sell yourself, I don't like the word sell, when you can position yourself as free. Who wants it? Make Papa proud.
What's the objection again?
No objection.
A listing agent
concept.
is free.
Yeah, I got it, Janet. I got it.
Yes, sir.
You've got to be able, can you
Verbalize.
Yeah, can you verbalize why you're free? I'll make it easy. I'm the for sale by owner. I'm trying to save the fee. Go. Who wants it? This is how you learn, guys. Come on. Get up in the driving range.
I'll do it.
All right. Was that Fan?
Yeah. For sale by owner, you want to save the fee?
Yeah. Go.
Other than the fee.
We're at the table.
Okay.
Listing agent is free.
Other than the fee, Danny, is there anything else stop us working together?
Nope.
So I'm just curious, what specific fee are you looking for?
Oh, look at that. He's going to Delta. You got to get to a number. Well, I'm going to say, what do you guys charge? Six apples, right? I'm trying to save that.
You're trying to save that, or are you saying, like, can you be more specific? How much are you trying to save?
Can you read between the lines? I'm trying to save 6%.
All of them. Okay. So let me ask you this. How long it's been on the market?
Nope.
Wrong direction.
Yep. Remember, you're at the deli at Publix and you want pastrami and you're going to put the pastrami in the slicer. You've got to start reducing this down to the ridiculous. What's the biggest piece of meat?
What's the most important thing for you selling?
No.
Mr. Seller, who is going to negotiate for you?
No.
It's important about saving the 6%.
What do you want to walk away from the table with?
Let me help you. Your seller's attempting to save a chunk of money. Generally, it's the total fee. 5 apples, 4 apples, 6 apples, $1. Okay. So let me ask you then, if I were to bring you a buyer, would you compensate me if I brought a buyer to you? Yes, okay. So what have you just done, you guys? You've cut the perceived savings he wants in half. Remember, the whole conversation is how do you describe to a seller that you're free? So instead of saving 5 apples, you're going to save what, 2.5? I'm just going to use percent. It could be anything. You attempted to save 2.5. Now I've taken you to that part. The pastrami's still in the slicer. What's next?
You'd be willing for somebody to pay for, you'd be willing to pay somebody else to have professional advisement, but not for yourself?
It's, it's not a bad question. There's a better way of doing it. You have to show them how they're going to lose. So what is the first decision a for sale by owner has to make? If they're going to go alone, what's the first decision they make?
Whether they're paying a buyer's agent or not.
All right, then what's the second decision?
Their position in the negotiation.
No, pricing.
Okay.
So then you slice that. So how are you? So it might already be on the market. So let's say it's not. The question is, well, how will you determine the asking price? I'm not. So, Fan, can you take it from there? Can anybody take it from that point?
What's the price? I mean, I guess we have already asked the question, what if I bring a buyer, the fee and all that, right?
Yeah, we're past that.
Okay. So what's the price are you thinking?
Well, I'll tell you, a better question is how did you come up with it? But I'm thinking of 500.
What's the 500 important to you?
No.
No. Hey, Fan, ask Denny how he determined that price.
How that 500 is structured, Mr. Denny?
No. Ask him verbatim, Denny, how did you determine that price?
So one thing I want to say, this is Mastery, and we love you, right? When it comes to money, and Fan, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to everybody. I hear it all the time. Why is 500 important to you? Or why is the lower fee important to you? It's really kind of the dumb question. Because if you could buy gas for $1 a gallon instead of $2 a gallon, why would you do that? Duh. So stay off the question. So, all right, Matt, land the plane. I'm the seller. Go.
How did you determine 500?
Well, my neighbor's house sold down there for like $475, and my house is similar, but my wife sponge painted the ceilings, which looks really great. So I think we can get 500.
Okay. And what are we going to get if the home doesn't sell?
Well, that's going to sell.
Okay. But worst case scenario, if it doesn't.
Not a possibility.
Okay.
So that wouldn't, it's a great question, but it wouldn't work with me. So I'm just saying that it's not a possibility.
Right. What makes you say that?
Because I've sold, 5 houses in my past.
Okay. So you got some experience. When's the last time you sold a home on your own?
It was about 1935.
Oh, okay. So could it be possible the market's a bit different since then?
Yeah, we didn't have electricity back then.
Yeah. The conveniences of modern technology. So just out of curiosity, Denny, did you know that homeowners selling their home on their own statistically sell for about 16% less, anywhere between 6 and 16% less?
So I've heard that a number of different times. So Matt and I, we don't agree on everything, right? I don't think that's true. I don't think that's a true statement. I wouldn't use the statement. You can use it if you want to. It's not believable to me.
Shouldn't you ask how long they're willing to wait?
No, well, here's the way I would play the game, Matt. It's like, okay, just reverse it.
Yeah.
So you're basing on, so let me ask you, is it possible? I mean, I know you're a dentist, and so you don't sell real estate all the time. And is it possible that when you price, when I'm talking to him, I'm saying price.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm in control, I'm saying position.
Mm-hmm.
So when you price it at 500, is it possible that it sells right away?
I guess it could be.
Would that concern you that maybe, is it possible that because you don't do it all the time, that maybe you underpriced it by maybe A percent? What's a percent of 500,000?
5,000.
I mean, is it possible somebody could misprice it by a percent and you have all, and you sell it right away? But you might have left money on the table. Is that at all possible?
Yeah, I guess it could be.
So, all right, so you're attempting to save 2.5%, and I'm being conservative, right, guys? I mean, 1%, holy cow, appraisal can't be within 1%. So instead of 2.5%, you're gonna maybe save 1.5%. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, right.
No, I've never done this role play like this. I said, what if you get an offer on it right away? I'm putting fear in him, or at least pause. Wow, if somebody came in right away and you want to buy it, I'm already planting the seed. The worst thing that can happen is he get action on it right away, which means what, guys? He's selling $100 bill for probably less than $100. Any pushback on that? Now I'm going to go to the other side and say, well, okay, let's say you put it on you price it at 500, then nobody comes. What are you going to do next? I'm following the same model Matt uses all the time. Is what if it doesn't sell? What if it sits on the market? What's the next decision they have to make? Which is it's a tough decision. What is it?
How long am I going to leave it here and make no changes, or consider other options?
Well, that'll be based on their motivation. However, I think the biggest decision is if they're wrong, they have to go ahead and price it again lower. Is it possible that you could reduce it 1% lower than you need to? Y'all see what I'm doing? I'm slicing the pastrami. Now, okay, what's after the price? Remember it's very sequential. What's the next challenge that a for sale by owner is going to have if they have a buyer come in?
Right. What's that offer going to look like?
Appraisal.
Yes, and who are they working with? They're working with a buyer's agent. Who does the buyer agent represent? Is it possible that because you're not represented, and they get rewards in heaven if they save money for their buyer, that you might sell it for 1% less than if you had a professional negotiator?
Yep. And you can ask the question: have you ever had have you or a family member ever got a divorce?
Is that rhetorical?
Can we say, if the appraisal comes way lower than it should be, how would you know that it's the right appraisal?
But remember, that's the third step. It's initial positioning, then it may be a price change, then it's negotiating a contract, and then it may be renegotiating the price because of an appraisal, and then it's negotiating the inspection.
Right.
And oh, by the way, how can they basically do a good job of pre-qualifying a buyer by themselves? I mean, how many of our transactions blow up?
What about
a solid transaction? It blows up 4 weeks off, and then now they've already got dollars on another house. Can you see all of the things that can go wrong?
what about market exposure to the
Pardon?
MLS? What about market exposure to the MLS?
Doesn't
For
matter.
sale,
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't go there because then you get into the marketing conversation.
Yes, you want to stay. Marketing is quicksand. Just write that down. You talk about marketing, it's quicksand. You don't need marketing. You don't need it. And obviously we do it. We have to let people know. But once you're in MLS, there's nothing you can do significantly to move the needle. Tesla makes cars. Tesla will make a car that will drive itself.
I have a quick question, Denny. So you're saying following your logic, right? So you're asking, if you're offering 500,000 we put on the market, you think it's going to sell right away, right? So wouldn't he already put the property on the market?
Well, it could be on the market if it's already on the market. Well, obviously no one's bought it at 500. What's your next move? If you had to then change the price, what would you change it to? And when you change it to that number, is it possible you lower it 1%? You just start over again from that point.
Right. How certain are you that you made the right decision?
So is it getting clearer, Fan or Janet, people in here, is it getting clearer that our value proposition to a seller has zero to do with marketing? It has to do with the skill in positioning or repositioning or negotiation, etc. That's why they hire us. What do you
Now,
think about that, Matt?
Yeah, I love it. And I do terribly when I pick up in the middle of scenarios, just because typically because the situation, each person is situational, like in their own regard. So ultimately at the end of the day though, especially with for sale by owners, it is imperative that we help them self-discover just what they don't know about this process. So, you know, Denny doesn't like when we talk about them selling for less. And I do that in certain situations. It's not my go-to, but it is certainly part of the conversation in some cases. But it's important to create the doubt, because what do they do for a living? For example, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm a whatever. Okay, well, how many homes have you sold on your own? How certain are you that you're getting this right? What happens when the buyer's agent comes along and they're representing the best interest of the buyer? Do you hire the same attorney that your soon-to-be ex-wife does to defend you in the divorce? Like these are the things, you're just creating the doubt. And then ultimately, then you close with, if I could show you a way to eliminate all that and get it right or as close to right as possible from day one and represent your best interest, what is that worth to you?
Matt, let me ask you this is a fine change, maybe. Nothing wrong with what you said, I agree with it, but I would make the statement, if there were a way. I leave me out of it. When I start talking about if I could show you, I don't talk about I a lot. If there were a way to get here from here to there, would you be interested in knowing what it is? Very subtle difference.
100%, and I apologize for that, because that's actually the way, if there were a way. So whenever I'm doing my FSBO script and I'm in the appointment, one of the last things I do is I look at Denny in the eyes and I say, Denny, let's talk about safety. Okay, did you know that realtors are being killed by showing property right now or doing open houses? So let's say that you get a buyer that calls you at 8 o'clock on a Friday night. You're at work, Denny. It's only your wife and kids at home. He says, I'm paying cash. I need to fly out tomorrow morning. I need to see your house right now. What do you do? And he said, well, I'll take off. I said, no, you can't. You're at work. You can't do it. So like I did earlier with whoever I was role playing with, you can't do it. And they say, well, I don't know. I'd have to miss out on that buyer. And I stop right there. And I say, if there were a way to ensure that buyer was real, they were who they said they were, they had the cash they said they had, and they were ready to buy your home, would you want to take that route?
So you guys, I'm really appreciative, Jen, if you asked that, because and we got a small group here and it's growing. This is mastery. I'm going to come up with a diploma that if you can basically believe and articulate your value proposition without saying the M word, you know what I mean, and you understand the Better Way listing program, I'm going to get you the diploma. Something that says that. Maybe, I don't know what. I'll give you a slice of pastrami to help you remember that's the metaphor. It's putting the meat in the meat slicer and slicing it one slice at a time. I had you guys talk a minute. Questions? What?
Well, I just want to ask Matt. Hi, Matt. It's been a while. What you just say.
I've been thinking about you.
So I actually have sellers that respond back to me. You know what? If they really like the house, they will come back and wait for me. How do you respond to that?
How many opportunities are you willing to miss?
Okay.
How many opportunities like this would you be willing to miss?
That's a good comeback. Mm-hmm.
But again, remember what I said earlier, if they don't answer the questions or they can't answer the questions or they refuse to answer the questions, they're not real. Because if we're set, like, we don't list the home, we list the client. Why are you selling? When do you need to sell by? What happens if you don't? Okay, well,
so Matt, So I actually just closed on a property that I kind of double-ended. And the seller was, in my opinion, did not want to sell. Like, he built the property from ground zero. And but he has to sell because he was in a little bit financial situation. Okay, I know for sure. But he's coming up with, I'm gonna get refinance, I'm gonna borrow money, I'm gonna do everything else to keep the house. So there was an opportunity, like, look, I'm about to let this buyer go. And I kind of have this conversation, if they really want this house, they'll do whatever they can to buy this house. And that's when I'm like, okay, it's like similar situation where we were just talking about. I just didn't have an answer for that. So I kind of like have to bear and grin the situation a little bit. But I wish I had a better way of a comeback.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Remember, it's all about doubt. It's like, okay, I always put the shoe on the other foot. Like, if you could do several things, but if you were the buyer and there were 1,000 homes just like that, and 900 of them were on sale, would you really come back to that one? How many opportunities would we be willing to miss out on?
The other is, I put the bow on this, Susan, another, they're hanging their hat on one buyer. So you're gonna wait on the one buyer to come back. And based on the sales in the area, there's 700 other buyers that aren't interested, that could be interested. Is that a good bet? Would you rather appeal to the one or the 700? So, anybody have a aha today?
One more thing for Susan. Look at, and with that situation specifically, you can show them, just like when we do the market updates of 35 homes in your area have sold, right? Or 35 homes have gone to contract in the last 7 days. You can use that right then. Well, hey, Susan, while we've been waiting, while we've been here, 45 homes have gone to contract in your zip code. How long are we going to be willing to wait on this one guy while all these other properties sell? That's the situation. That's what you use.
And I had a painful, just really quick, I went on AHA before you go. I had a painful experience in 8th grade. I loved Yvonne Milliken. I waited all year for her to want to, hold hands with me, and she never did. I wasted my whole 8th grade year waiting on something that never happened. So you don't want to wait on Yvonne if Yvonne's not coming. So who had an AHA today?
Denny, I had an aha. I finally realized that free agent is your value proposition has nothing to do with marketing, because I always thought your value proposition is how you do your marketing.
All right.
I got an answer. So when the seller is asking you questions and you say that actually we're free, and it's actually the buyer's agent that brings the buyer to buy the home typically, and that's what they're correct.
Okay. Yep. Does it make any sense, you guys? I mean, just on the surface, they're willing to pay the enemy, but not someone to help them?
Yep. Polina, one more time, say your aha. There are some people asking questions about it. It was powerful how you said it.
Value proposition has nothing to do with marketing.
Right. Your value to your client has nothing to do with the flags you put in the front yard that wave around, the wacky inflatable arms. Your value proposition has nothing to do with your marketing. Nothing.
I will even go as far as to say, whatever you spend money on marketing over and above having put it in MLS is a waste of money unless you're doing it to brand yourself. If you have the right position, you don't need any marketing. If you have the wrong position, going back to Matt's example, $1 million, buy every billboard in the country, it won't sell the house.
Yep.
So one more aha, and I'll let you go. It's almost happy hour, maybe, Matt.
Yeah, no, I have an aha, and it's interesting as we have the role plays and we have the masterminds. it's really interesting the things that come up that are repetitive. So guys, these problems, my aha is it's not concise, but it's interesting how these problems that you have, and I'm saying you to everybody ubiquitously, they're not unique to you. These aren't new problems. So there's nothing new under the sun. So my aha is if you're having an issue, it's likely that other people are in here. So you need to find your tribe. And we've found a tribe here that of growth-minded individuals. So now it's imperative, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, that we practice this stuff. Like, I mean the people that are afraid, and not to say that there is anybody on here that's afraid to raise their hand, but if Maria's having problems and Jose's having problems and I'm having problems and Nick's having problems and Tanner's having problems, we're all having problems. Denny's having problems too. You have to practice these things. You have to, if you want not necessarily to be successful in this industry, but if you want to thrive in any market, you have to practice these things.
Well, thanks for your input today, Matt. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me, Coach Danny Grimes at Gmail. And if you want some of my slides that I use all the time as PDFs, you can use them, modify them, study them. Just go to my YouTube channel, Danny Grimes, the Master of Real Estate. Subscribe and let me know you subscribed. I'll send you the PDFs. Have a good weekend. Love you, mean it. Knuckle bump.
Thank you.
Be careful.
Appreciate you.
Bye, Janet.